Good morning to you, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to the Now Morning Show. Today is Wednesday, the 6th day of October, and we continue the budget conversations here on the Now Morning Show. Good morning, Natalie.
Great morning to you, Ruckus, and good morning to, don't worry, we have our guests here, but great morning to all of you. Welcome to the Now Morning Show here on TTT. I am Natalie Lagore, and it's a pleasure to have you here. Now, this morning, we still have to continue the budget discussion because so much came out of the budget. Of course, some people are pleased, some people aren't, and we know you can't please everybody, but we still want to give people an opportunity to discuss, you know, the budget, especially we're looking at the opposition and the government today, just to get their perspectives on what came out of the budget presentation and how those initiatives are going to move the economy forward. We know one of the issues over the years has been the ease of doing business for the business community. And of course, you know, they spoke about it. The chambers have weighed in, so we'll weigh in with the opposition and a government representative as well. So, Ruckus, would you like to introduce that?
Well, what I wanted to say was that also one of the issues of contention or topics of discussion have been agriculture.
Definitely.
And we've always been talking about diversification, how we're going to diversify, and people have always been talking about agriculture as the next step.
Yes.
So this morning, that's where we're going to start. We're going to get into that part of the conversation.
But you know what? Sorry, before we do, we can't ignore what happened yesterday. And even though, you know, we haven't gotten to that part of the discussion as yet, I think it's important for us to just even mention it, that the teachers had a blackout yesterday, and that you had some parents that protested yesterday. I mean, it's news. News is news is news is news is news. And
well, the irony was that yesterday was World Teachers' Day.
Exactly. Yeah. And the teachers are protesting because they believe that, you know, the Minister of Education and the Ministry of Education is not listening to their cry. Now, something that I have been discussing in my house since they decided to reopen schools is how many children are vaccinated, one. The thing is that we don't know how those children would have been distributed in schools. So in terms of if you have 25 to 30,000 students vaccinated and you have X amount of population of high school students between forms 4 to 6, how many of those are going to be in each schools in each class?
Exactly.
So to me, it proved problematic from day one, because if it's not data driven, it's going to be problematic. And I think that's what we're seeing, because you're going to have some teachers with 0 students, some teachers with 1, some teachers with 10, some teachers. Remember, classrooms go up to 40, you know. Classrooms go up to 40, and therefore, remember, you still are asking the teachers to have online classes. But we don't look and see how many schools are have proper Wi-Fi so that the teachers are able to, while they're in the physical classroom, to connect on Zoom, because that's the only way it's going to work in my mind. Otherwise, if you're having regular classes from 8 to 3, when do you do those Zoom classrooms unless you're connecting?
You're supposed to
and
do
you
the same
can't
time.
ask the children to be on Zoom from 8 to 3. That's madness. That's one thing. And then the other thing is that, no, I am just saying it how I see it. And the thing is that I am not the only one who thinks this way. Let's just be realistic. So I think that these are issues that the government definitely have to work out. And I think that's why tutors protesting. And we need the children to learn. And you have to consider that these are children who are going to be doing CXC. So they need all the attention that they can get. So I think it's something that the Ministry of Education just definitely has to look at and just recognize that it needs some kind of adjustment.
I saw Twitter denying that they actually made the call for teachers to stay away from work yesterday.
Oh, really? How convenient.
Just saying what they say.
I am not buying that foolishness. So 70% of teachers don't show up because you didn't make a call? Come on, man.
Maybe they just all feel the same way.
I don't like
the
stupid.
same way that you're talking. They
I don't like stupid. Yeah, but I don't accept stupid arguments either. It makes absolutely no sense.
All right, let's get into some intelligent arguments then.
Yes.
Some good conversation,
please.
yes?
Yeah.
This morning we want to welcome Minister in the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries. I'm talking about the one and only Clarence Rambharat, who has brought us mangoes before, by the way. Just gonna put that out there. As well as Opposition Senator Mr. David Nakhid. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to the Now Morning Show.
Yes, good morning. I have actually gotten my farmers market bag to distribute to those in my community who are needy.
Nice.
So I know what it's like.
Nice.
I remember I was so excited when I got the bag to Auntie Alyssa, and I was like, okay, this is a big bag. Like, I felt like it was a big bag. So we distributed the things in two and added some of our own stuff, you know, like dried goods in it and stuff. and shared it with two really needy families.
I have one issue with that whole giving away of the bags and services and stuff. It's like, it's great, it's fantastic for those in need. One of the things that I realized it did do was that it drove some prices up in the market because now things were a little bit more scarce on the market in general.
You really?
Yeah.
Go to the farmer's market, darling.
Like tomatoes went up because it became more scarce.
No, tomatoes is seasonal, darling. I'll tell you that.
The season never done. The season isn't done yet.
There's a time when you pay up to $15 a pound for tomatoes.
And the market this weekend was 20.
Yes. The prices fluctuate based on the time of year. I'm not even asking. I'm a market girl. I literally am going
to that part of the conversation.
Yeah,
let's talk about the allocation.
Morning to the people in Chaguanas Market.
Let me start with you, Mr. Rambharat. Tell me your reaction, your response, how you feel about what was read out in the budget on Monday.
Well, let me just tell you about the market boxes and the impact on the prices. The reality is this, and the market boxes, that is an excellent way to begin. The fact is, and drawing on the teachers too, the fact is that the very first contribution I made in the Senate on COVID, when he had to deal with COVID regulations, I said the only thing certain about COVID is uncertainty. And almost 2 years after, we're dealing with uncertainty. And we have a lot ahead of us, as the Prime Minister has said. When it comes to agriculture, there was uncertainty, but the most important thing the government did and the country did was to make agriculture an essential service. And that means that while I think almost every job except maybe health and the elected politicians have been away from work, the agriculture sector has continued, and the numbers show that. And in this, there's always been a concern about whether farmers could produce under the most difficult conditions. Well, this most recent run of the food boxes demonstrated that. So in 5 months from May to the end of September, the farmers sold NAMDEFCO 6 million pounds of produce. They would receive about maybe upwards of $50 million shared among just over 300 farmers across the country. Farmers, male farmers, female farmers, young farmers have vast array. The local poultry sector has received about $7 million for the chicken that was bought from them. And I will tell you this. I know you go to the market, but I go to all markets across the country, roadside stalls, everything. I think I monitor the prices personally. In fact, I was in the farmers market in Queen's Park, Savannah on Saturday. And as I saw the prices, I spoke to NAMDEFCO, I spoke to some of the farmers, because I saw some prices that surprised me in terms of on that day at
you
that
think some
market.
Price gouging going on?
It has to do it has to do with production planning and the uncertainties. So the farmers, for example, with the market boxes, I could tell you that didn't influence the price of tomatoes. One of the things we saw is that even though we bought $6 million worth of 6 million pounds of produce in that 5-month period, it did not disturb supplies in the municipal markets, the farmers market, the roadside. Actually, there were more roadside. There have been more roadside vendors. We even had the Tantamuna Corporation shutting down a farmers market sort of ad hoc arrangement in Caroni. So you go outside Long Circular Mall, you see three persons with car trunks open selling produce. So I don't think the thing with like right now, hot peppers, pimento, the pattern of the rain has changed. So you'd see it in the last week. We've seen it. We've seen somewhere in Port of Spain here, a section of Port of Spain, Long Circular over the Savannah, intense shower, and in Maraval, nothing. Yeah. So what we've seen in even the driest conditions, you can have rain, but rain that is intense. And when it comes to tomato, hot peppers, intense rain is not good. It's gonna take the flowers. It's gonna take the flowers off.
So the price
and
goes
very
up. Difficult
to recover. You also would see we're going to have an excellent Christmas in terms of produce, simply because the food sector reopened right away with roti shops and small food establishments. The roti shops take the seasoning and the pepper the pimento right away.
Yeah, but one of the things we see as well, Minister, is that when supermarket prices go up, the farmers' prices go up too for whatever reason.
Well, the thing about produce prices, it depends on when you buy and where you buy. So if you're in the supermarket trade, you see high prices most times. If you're in the farmer's market, so it all depends on how close the produce is to the producer.
Right.
If you buy close to the farmers or from the farmers, you see the difference in the prices. So the farmers themselves respond to the high prices.
Yeah.
So seasonings, people who would not have been in cybe and celery, they've gone into that. You see tomato is now between the range of 14 to 18. Normally,
it is Mr. Tomato, but Minister, of course, in the interest of time, let us get to the budget. Your perspective on what was presented by Minister Colin Imbert.
Well, that is exactly what the budget is about. My views on the budget and the approach to the budget is based on a lot of things, but particularly on how the farmers and how the country has responded to that food box program. So because I know that the farmers can produce even under the most difficult conditions, the budget is really premised on a few things. We have the 500 stimulus. From the moment the 500 million stimulus was announced last year in the budget, I said to the country, there's no way we're going to spend 500 million in 1 year. There's no way we're going to give away this. We have to engage with the farmers, with the private sector in planning what we're going to do. This last fiscal year, we lost 60% of the year because of the restrictions, the lockdown, no construction, can't do field visits, site visits, and interactions. But we're ready for this particular fiscal. We've designed the allocation of 300 million from the stimulus is simply because I'm confident that is what we can draw down, that is what we can ask the minister to pay out in the next fiscal. I'm very confident about the 300 million, and that is made up of things that are critical to the farmers now. One is a road program, an $80 million road program, targeting those areas that have really not had access to road repairs for a long time. So we're talking about the farmers from Matlat down to Sangre Grande, across the East-West corridor in places like Tanapuna, St. Augustine, Orange Grove, Marcus, St. Joseph, right down to Paramin. Plumita, I have spoken about. In fact, the Minister of Finance talked about a special allocation to the farmers in Plumita, and that's really because how well they performed in this period. The key issue up there is water management. We've had some pumps up there that are 35 years old. Last year I said we've allocated $9.5 million to replace that. So the total allocation for Plumita is $11 million, made up of the pumps that are to be replaced and the roads that are to be repaired. There's a particularly difficult bridge there, the Kaltu Bridge. My colleague, the Minister of Rural Development, has committed to deal with that. So that is 80 million in roads, 11 million for Plumita in particular. What the farmers have showed us is that they can produce the primary production that comes to the market directly. We know that the really important way that we hit the food import bill is being able to provide to the restaurant trade and the supermarket trade processed and packaged agriculture product, not heavily processed. So NAMDEVCO, we have Novo has announced their $60 million investment. It's not an investment. They've opened the facility, agro-processing. It's a sign of confidence that the private sector has in the economy and in agriculture in particular. We've said there's $200 million of private sector investment going on right now in agriculture. That excludes Novo. Novo is ready to take produce from the farmers for production. They have their markets already. They're in Massey on the shelf already. So that around the 6 million that we know the farmers can produce, we're going to continue to grow that. In the Moruga Light Industrial and Agro Park, we have people who have already taken those shells and are ready to outfit it. One in particular is ready and moving some equipment in, and that is going to take produce.
Minister, yes, let us pause you there and bring David Nakhid in on the conversation. Your view of what Colin Imbert presented on Monday.
Well, not only was it more of the same from last year, which is little or nothing. No, in my opinion, we have to have a holistic look at agriculture. If we talk about diversification, we talk about how important agriculture is, especially in a pandemic moment, and the allocation is 1.2. $49 billion out of a $52 billion. That is minuscule. And I think we've lost that moment. I think, with all respect to the Minister of Agriculture, this was his moment to shine. This was the moment when he should have stepped up and said, well, this is a time to integrate not only agriculture, but possibly health, because we talk about health issues. So when he talks about numbers, 6,000 pounds or so,
6 million.
6 million pounds on these numbers, all these numbers sound all well and good. But it comes back, what is of concern, what is of import to the population is food security. That's what it comes on to.
So what do you think the government needs to do to get to that level of food security?
Right. Food security is not about having produce in the supermarket or having in the market, as you all alluded to, tomatoes. I think it's $18 a pound.
20 just this week.
20, right. Because I also go to the markets as well and do a little bit of agriculture myself.
Yeah.
So I'm aware. So I think I've reached 150. So when we talk about food security, you're talking about not only availability, but you're talking about the quality of food. So when you see the budget that came down and you talk about pigtail and you talk about this and that, you have to understand what goes into the bodies of our people in Trinidad and Tobago. And nothing is said about that at all. So if somebody buying 10 box of ramen and eating that all week, that is not food security. We're selling our children basically on nothing.
So you think that the discounts, so to speak, should be on let's say, ground provision or on green vegetables?
Let's make it simple. Let's go back to where we were under Kamala Prasad government. And it's not an attempt to politicize everything, but we're talking facts.
That's exactly what it is.
Well, be in politics. He's a politician and so am I. And we have to be clear. So if we had the removal of VAT on 7,000 basic food items, that is significant. That is significant. Not saying, well, okay, we're gonna move VAT from 15 to 12.5. Not only have you lost $188 million in revenue, what you have done is made some food inaccessible to the poor man on the street, and that's what's important. Who suffers the most when prices go up? It's not the people who have measurable incomes. They are the people who cannot afford.
Yeah, but those 7,000 items, what were they that made them so great as compared to just, number one, taking off 2.5% off everything, regardless of what it is?
Let me tell you what made it not so great. Because if you take out from 15% to 12.5%, it doesn't affect the people who have money. When you look into Target and you talk about food security, you're talking about the man on the ground. You're talking about working class people.
And you don't think that 2.5%
No, it obviously did not. If you look at the health of the people, and I think even Minister Rambharat alluded to that. If you look at the health of the people within the disadvantaged communities along the east-west corridor and in the rural areas, it's very poor.
Yeah, but the 7,000 food items still did not include green vegetables or anything else.
It was flour, it was oil, it was things like that.
But these are things that still can be accessible to people.
But they are accessible now.
They don't improve anybody's health.
Yeah. You're saying it is not healthy, but does it help if you move from 15% to 12.5%? And who does that affect? Who does that affect?
No,
who can afford
your argument about food security was making sure that people are eating healthy as well, making sure they're eating good food, yes?
This was the moment for the Minister of Rambharat to perhaps integrate a bit. Let me finish.
Sorry, go ahead.
To integrate a bit his ministry with the Ministry of Health. I haven't seen Minister Rambharat one time in any press conference with the Ministry of Health talking about how we can. I haven't seen it. If he can correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't seen him in any press conference talking about how we can integrate the agricultural ministry with the health ministry, especially in this pandemic moment, to have better, not only food security, but quality of food available for the poor and working class.
So can I ask then, do you not think that being able to still have farmers work during the pandemic and consider them to be essential workers, having that food security, that's not part of having it as well, where you're still able to go to the Namdevco market and on weekends still able to get fresh produce grown by farmers in Trinidad and Tobago? That's not part of...
Well, that's what I alluded to at the beginning. It's not enough to say there's a food supply. It has to be sure that that food supply reaches the people. That's
So
what I
don't you
alluded
think
to.
the damn left
No,
markets
it
are
doesn't-
reaching the people?
It's
Doesn't
not
it? Are
even
you all connected to the ground?
I am surprised Mr. Rambharat is quiet because I thought you'd have defended it with the bags that
remember
you...
Remember, Natalie, at the start you told us you'll put us off the set. And
She did. I must say,
in the Senate, Senator Nakhid has his 20 minutes largely uninterrupted.
Right,
I have mine.
appreciate that. So, Senator
I'm
Nakhid, we give way to you.
I understand that my friend takes a very long time to make his point.
Member,
order.
I'm on my feet. I'm on my feet. Senator Nakhid, please continue.
No. What we're gonna do actually, we're gonna take a moment, gentlemen.
All right, it is 26 minutes to the hour of 7 o'clock. You're watching Budget Matters on the Now Morning Show here on TTT. And this morning with us, the Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, Clarence Rambharat, and Shadow Minister for Agriculture, David Nakhid from the United National Congress. And they're just here to chalk it up about what happened in the budget. And of course, Mr. Nakhid is saying, listen, you can say, okay, the farmers are putting out, but that alone does not deal with food security. And he's very disappointed that the Minister of Agriculture has not paired with the Ministry of Health so that we can get people eating well. And he said, of course, under the United National Congress, the 7,000 food items were VAT-free. And so, therefore, that 12.5% does not really matter to the small man. So we're going to go across to Minister Rambharat. Minister, he's right on some levels. If you have 7,000 items that are zero-rated, and now you've gotten them to 12.5%, it means for the small man, he has to pay 12.5%.
Well, you have to look at things in the context. I mean, people forget, and I don't want to go into the past and deal with Kamla Prasad-Bissessa's administration, except to make a point about what Senator Nakhid said. I mean, Kamla Prasad-Bissessa has her problems in her own party, so I don't want to add to it. The point is that in 2015, when we came in, the former Minister of Finance, Larry Hawaii, had forecast since 2014. Senator Nakhid was there in the Senate when I went through what he said. Since 2014, the difficulties in the economy and what we had to do to reduce transfers, to fix VAT administration, tax administration, and all those things. When we came in 2015, there was a significant loss of revenue, which was known, which was coming. And we had to make the appropriate adjustments. And we were very, very clear to this day of not interfering with fresh produce and what we call the basic food items. And there's some debate. You just read a headline there. There's some debate about what was zero then and what remains zero, so that we did what we could do. But whether it's VAT, whether it's property tax, whatever it is, we have to share the burdens of the loss of revenue. And we have to right-size the economy and all those things, so that what remains, and when you look at what VAT is on, the fact is that ultra-processed food, Senator Nakhid has talked about health. He's also tried to reshuffle the cabinet and give me my daily duties. The point is that I don't need to be at a press conference every day or at all to be talking about the link between agriculture and health. As a minister, I came out saying that the money spent in agriculture is meant to reduce what we'll spend in the future on health. And I've been the minister. I've gotten into trouble by myself when I spoke about doubles, and it was not doubles alone I've spoken about. I don't have a problem with doubles, but I've said our eating habits, our consumption pattern, is no different from China. In fact, is experiencing that once you have a growing middle class and once you have the economy is booming, you tend to want to mirror the North American eating and consumption habits. They have their own problems. So that I have always drawn the link. This ministry exists, farmers exist for the health of the nation.
But I see even the bags that you gave out, as I said, I received one, and Auntie Alison and I shared it amongst two really needy families, because to me there was so much in the bag, but it was all fresh produce.
It's all fresh produce. Is zero rated, and it's not only zero rated, it's produced by farmers who get land at $500 an acre. They have duty and VAT exemption on the imported inputs in agriculture. I will say that we've struggled for years. We've struggled, and we're making another attempt with the Minister of Finance. There are things that should be zero VAT and zero duty for farmers that are not, because it's not set out clearly in the documentation. So you have things like hydroponic systems that sometimes we have to intervene. So we're trying to make that absolutely clear. But the stuff in the bags does not fall from the sky. And I don't want to, that is why I don't want to spend a lot of time on Senator Nakhid. I want to spend time on my farmers. They've done well. I've spoken to some of the UNC MPs, and I've said to them in your contribution in the parliament, because this is something I've said publicly, when you offer only negativity on agriculture, you're losing the opportunity to praise your own farmers. For example, and I've said it many times, the bulk of the money that we paid out to farmers in the food box program was paid out from Matlot to Muruga. You have about 4 or 5 MPs there. You have MP Rai, Dr. Rai in Komoto. He knows his farmers in Plumita. They've been big suppliers to the program. So when you go out there and you talk, your contribution is negative, you are demeaning and lowering the contribution.
Yeah, but Minister, you can't say to the United National Congress that if they see things in agriculture that need improvement, that they can't speak about it.
No, it's not a matter.
And in some way, shape or form, it is going to affect the farmers.
I'm not saying do not say that there's room for improvement, but do not come and talk about diversification. We've had agriculture in this country. In fact, we had agriculture before anything else. The first peoples brought, that is what they were engaged in. When you talk about a diversified economy, and we should diversify into agriculture, we've always been in agriculture. We had Carney 1975 limited producing sugar. The fact that agriculture has declined in contribution to GDP is directly related to our exit from sugar.
Can agriculture ever be that thing that can bring the country forward, given the size of the lands, the amount of farmers, even if we get to the best scenario possible?
Okay, so
is it something that can sustain the country?
It is not going to be done by how much money you spend. You go back to 2010, 2015, when my friends were spending money. There was that one fiscal year, agriculture's share of the budget was about $2 billion. It's not about how much money you spend. A series of things.
Did it make a difference then, Senator Nakhid?
It did not move. It did not move. Agriculture GDP has been at 0.4% of GDP for a very long time. Of course, 0.4% of a big pie is different from 0.4 of a smaller pie.
Let me engage Senator Nakhid. You're saying that $2 billion made a difference. How so?
Well, it made a difference, judging, and it all goes back to, well, we shouldn't talk about contractors. You could get a repo and see what has been done there and who you have given that to.
I would be happy to talk about
and the reason why you have $45 a pound for goat and all of that, and that's your people there. So of course you love to talk about it. That's private partnership with public, yes, but does it benefit the people? And that's where
22 million.
That's where you always seem to be duplicitous. Yeah, and you've gotten like a Minister of Finance. You've talked about 5 minutes and you've said nothing. The point of a budget must be a living word. It must be like the Bible. If you do not enact what is there, it's nothing. It's just it's just script. And that is what basically he has said. He hasn't told us yet how you can improve the food security and the livelihoods of the poor man in Trinidad and Tobago. He talked about a place where Dr. Ayak Beer is or so, but you have 16 to 20,000 registered farmers. You have about 80,000 unregistered. Has he consulted with them? Has there been any consensus with them? This is a government that has little or no consensus. And we come back to the teachers. It's easy to say, well, they stayed at home or so, but they themselves have said that there has been little meaningful consensus with this government. It's the same with the farmers. The farmers, and I'm on the ground with them, he talks about the farmers market, but it's not good to walk around in the farmers market with your friend from TTOC and just look at the prices and think that is it. You have to go on the ground, and not with your friend in a repo. You have to go on the ground and see the farmers around the country, and they are complaining. Little access roads, poor infrastructure, nothing to do with Prairie or Larceny, and you come here to talk about what we did in 2014 or what we did in 2015?
Senator Nakhid, Minister, let us see if we can respond to some of those concerns raised by Senator Nakhid. The access roads, and whatever else he just mentioned there.
I opened about the access road. So again,
promises again. You said it before in the budget
friend,
last year. You all do nothing. There's no implementation. That is the problem with this government.
Senator Nakhid, let's give him an opportunity to respond.
My friend has this habit of talking about not being on the ground, right? He has very shiny shoes. I always tell him that, and a beautiful suit there.
Because
I am all over this country. Listen,
I don't dress like a bum, but I can tell you.
I am all over this.
I am on my feet, Senator Nakhid. I'm on my feet.
Talk about my shoes. Get some class.
I am all over this country. Yesterday I was with my farmers. I could tell you, farmers could tell you, nobody could say they see David Nakhid anywhere except election night getting a beating, as I got a beating. But the point is that he takes this position, and of course he talks about the TTOC president, my friend, because he has a banker. The point is that we have no time to waste on that. I came here to talk about, and I opened with the access road. So you don't.
So let's deal with the issues that you raised.
Right.
Access roads, Prairie, Larceny, which is a real problem.
We hear the farmers, $80 million
and those farmers who don't have lease to their lands. We know that's something that you've been addressing.
Every time I'm in the public, I talk about land tenure. I've been the minister who've talked and most likely done. And every time I give the numbers, I was distributing cabinet approvals for lease letters yesterday. I was doing it today. I did it last week. I do it all the time. The point is that I've spoken about Carney 1975 Limited, the 2-acre parcels. I've said how many thousands of tenure documents we've given out. I've always talked about that.
But how many have you not
given out?
But Senator Nakhid, if it's something being addressed, it is something being addressed.
But it's the Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, not the Minister of Land alone. So you cannot keep talking about land tenure and nothing about agriculture and fisheries. Madness.
We've been investing in technology. We've been digitizing our files. We've done thousands of files. And we're moving now to digitalization, which is transformation of the systems. We're making an $18.5 million investment over 3 years, starting in October. We are using a system called OnBase. So that is transferring the work that has been done into a system. I've spoken about that a lot.
Yeah.
So, and I could talk about agro-processing. I've spoken this morning on the private sector. We're doing this food box distribution through the facility in Woodford Lodge. We're spending $20 million in this coming fiscal year to make that a permanent facility in terms of the cold storage and putting in walk-in cold storage. We're going to do a mezzanine where we could house some of the staff down there. We're going to put in a food-safe floor. And we're going to bring that facility to a place that we could operate from permanently. We are also investing in the Piaco facility, upgrading. We've had compressors there for 10 years, not working. We've been limping along in that facility. We have private sector contracts. NAMDEFCO has secured, which allows us to make the investment to upgrade that. We have in Breckingcastle, my friends spent close to $50 million to build a shell for me. They even had a formal opening. How could you open? You know, you could be on the ground. The problem with being on the ground is that you're not fixing your head. If you're on the ground, you're not dealing with what is in your head. How could you commission an agro-processing facility? Big ceremony. And the thing is empty. You don't have an electrical connection to it. And I've encountered a lot of that across the ministry. That was in litigation. We spent about 3 years settling the litigation. We spent 2 years trying to secure through a transparent process, as we did in our repo, our partner. We have a partner. The partner is going to spend their money, not our money, $15 million. And Breckingcastle will do agro-processing. So I've talked about primary production. I've talked about primary production. I've talked about the need to move. The 6 million pounds represent, and all the markets being filled represents production that is visible. We need to increase that, but drive that increase into agro-processing. The private sector is ready. We are ready. The food box program continues into this fiscal year. and we're going to grow. You're not going to be a mad person. You're going to plan your production. You're going to manage your production because you have to moderate prices. You can't put too much onto the market and you kill the same farmers you want to serve. You have to balance it, and you have to grow it, and then you have to match what we import.
What about Prairie larceny? It's
the
a
thing
real
about Prairie larceny is that
for
everybody come. I am not going to let, and I've never let the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service escape. I've been very, very open with that.
But shouldn't you have a Prairie larceny unit within the Ministry of Agriculture?
We do, and I want to be very clear what they do. But fundamentally, we have to understand in this country, there are police stations all over the country. We pay. There's a line item in the budget for the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. The resources given to the police service, including the human resources, are for farmers.
But is it that they don't look after the farmers?
Mr. Griffith understood that. The point is that the farmers say to me that they go to the police stations, they make the reports, they do not get the response. What the ministry has is a small unit that is there to support the police, because just like the game wardens, if we have wildlife offenses, the charges are prepared by the game wardens, but the crime management and as the national security aspect is dealt with by the police. The game wardens are a technical supportive group to the police. Likewise, Prairie larceny. If you want to prosecute a Prairie larceny offense, there are certain requirements that must be met. The Prairie larceny officers do that. They don't go and fight the crime. They don't. If you have theft of livestock and so on.
Should you expand the Prairie larceny unit given what is happening?
There are many reasons why we should not do that. And one of them has to do with duplicating the work of the police service. If you've seen how I've approached, like Aripo Livestock Station, you see how I approach my job as minister is that I avoid duplication, I avoid silos. If something is not working, I'm quite prepared to get rid of it.
Just accuse you of being duplicitous.
Very, very much so. And it comes back to this same Prairie larceny. You just spoke for about 4 minutes, and you've said nothing. What we have with the Prairie larceny, what he has avoided to say, is a common complaint from the farmers is that the Prairie larceny doesn't have the correct equipment, they have no fuel in the cars, nothing. So before you talk about expanding or not, or if there should be some synchronization with the TTPS, you have to at least outfit them in a manner that they can do their job. And all of the complaints from the farmers is that the Prairie larceny unit is never present. When you speak to them, they say they have no fuel, they have no proper cars, they have no proper equipment. Okay, that's out of the way. That's called getting to the point, not talking 5 minutes around the subject. Let's get back to food security. And what he never adjusted, he talked about market boxes, he talked about, I'm surprised he didn't talk about seedlings yet, you know. But what we have to be concerned about is, as Minister of Agriculture, he said he doesn't need to be with the Ministry of Health. Okay, you don't need to be at the press conference, but synchronize with that ministry in a pandemic moment to see how you can improve delivery.
So who said he hasn't done so? He didn't say he doesn't need to be with the Ministry of Health.
No, he said he doesn't need to be at the conference.
He said he doesn't, exactly,
that's
two different things.
Yes, at the conference.
No, you actually said he doesn't need to be at the Ministry of Health.
Yes, he should be with the Ministry of Health, whether in public or private, it doesn't matter to us, but there should be some deliverables when he comes out and talks. Until now, we haven't seen that. You can talk £6 million every day, all day, but the truth of the matter is that that is not reaching to the man on the ground, the people in disadvantaged communities.
I don't agree with you.
Tell me
I
what?
really don't agree, because as I told you, I got one to reach the people on the ground, and I did, the people who are in need, like really in need.
So you're
how
telling
do
me,
you determine?
So
how do you determine that these boxes that are going out aren't reaching the people on the ground?
How long does a box last, Ms. Legault?
That box that I got was a huge box.
We are in a pandemic for almost 2 years. We have grants that have been given to 4,000 out of a potential 25,000 people. We have people who have not had any access to any grants, whether it was $1,000, $1,500. Nothing they have received.
All right.
So you're telling me a market box suffices?
This is not the Ministry of Agriculture.
No, but
let us deal with the ministry.
We have to look at it in a holistic fashion.
Let us deal with the Ministry of Agriculture. We're not here to deal with
yes,
the issues of the government.
See, that's how you cannot look at it. You have to look at it in a holistic way.
Senator Nakhid.
If people are not receiving grants to buy food, then the Ministry of Agriculture
let's go to a break.
You're letting somebody...
All right, it's just about 5 minutes to the hour of 7 o'clock. So we have about that time, about 4 minutes left with Minister Clarence Rambharat, because the Senator Nakhid has exit stage left. Of course, it got a bit rowdy, and that's not what we're trying to do here. So, Minister, thank you for staying with us.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have a responsibility to the country to talk to them and to tell them what we're doing. And I just want to make one point. I mean, I have been around Senator Nakhid. He's an icon in football, but I say, thank God in football you only have one ball, because he seemed to be chasing shadows all the time, and he could conduct himself. I deal with him all the time in the Senate, but I wanna say one thing, that he seemed to have taken that view of farmers or people in agriculture dressed like bums is something that I do not accept at all. I mean, even my colleagues will tell you, even sometimes they have to say, Clarence, there's some mud on your shoe. I say, yeah, I was on a farm this morning and I come straight into the parliament. The point is that to even suggest that farmers are improperly dressed or anything like that, I think that is demeaning, is disparaging. I will tell you, the staff in the ministry will tell you, we have the dress code like everybody else on the wall. But one day I was walking into the office, and I always see people, and I asked them why they're here, and somebody was outside, and he said to me, Minister, I get a call to collect a check, and then when I came here, they tell me no slippers. And I told everybody, there's no dress code for my farmers sent to this ministry. This ministry belongs to them, and unless they stark naked, there's no dress code for farmers. There's a dress code for the employees. And I think it's disparaging to even suggest that farmers are bums or anything like that. They work very hard.
I don't think he was talking about farmers. I think he was talking about you, because he thinks he's swanky and well dressed, and you aren't.
I am me. I'm very happy. I'm off to work, but anything that suggests that to demean farmers. No, these people work hard. Farmers have worked hard.
But let us raise the point. Deal with the point before we have to go for the 7 o'clock news that Senator Nakhid raised, which is that the Prairie Larceny unit is not equipped.
That is not true, and I don't like to go into the UNC administration. I don't waste my time with that. But I just want to tell Senator Nakhid and remind the UNC that to this day, the 138 guns that they ordered and paid for the Prairie Larceny squad in the ministry, it's not arrived as yet. And that has taken up a lot of my time with the police. It's taken up a lot of police time. It's taken a lot of ministry time to locate those guns. And I've talked about that publicly.
138 guns ordered, paid for, but not gotten to...
Not in our hands as yet. And
not in your hands or not in the country?
Not in our hands as yet. It's somewhere, and they know where it is. And, and it's taken up a lot of time. And the last thing I did maybe about 2 months ago, is make it clear to the PS that we have to work this out with the police. We have to get those guns in our hands. The fact is, I've said it publicly. I don't try to be a popular minister, I do my work, and I've said publicly that in the Prairie Larceny squad, we had leadership issues. We went through a process to change the leadership. We've done that. I've had issues with the use of the equipment, the vehicles. The officers have complained to me and in writing too that the vehicles are monopolized by senior officers. They use it for their private business. A lot of the vehicles are down on account of accidents caused by the Prairie Larceny officers who use it. So that's a matter for the permanent secretary to address. And for example, they got a new building, not a very good building that we refurbished in El Carmen, close to Piarco. They've said to me that it's plagued by flooding and other issues. I'm trying to get a different location for them. And we continue to work with the officers. This is human beings. This is human beings in Trinidad and Tobago we're dealing with. And they know, as well as I know, that we've had productivity issues. We have had a lot of issues, and we're trying to deal with it. But at the end of the day, it does not matter what Prairie Larceny squad we get. They are a supportive function to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and I am resolute in my approach in saying the police must be at the forefront of supporting our farmers. But the farmers also have their responsibilities, and that is why in the 100,000 grant that we introduced, we made it available for farm security, for farmers to install cameras, fencing, anything that they believe, lighting, to improve the security, the livestock farmers, to improve the security of the farms. They have this 100,000 grant that is available to them. And they need to play their part too. A lot of times the farmers know it's either persons who have worked or are still working, people from the community. A lot of times I receive complaints about Prairie Larceny. I say to the farmers, but I'm sure you know who's doing it. And they said, yes, but Minister, I don't want to get involved in that. I don't want to this, I don't want to that. No, you have to. You have to make the reports. Every time I say to them, have you made a report to the police? The answer is no. It is very difficult. In fact, it is impossible to raise animals, to have produce, to be ready for harvest and so on, and get up one morning and see it's all gone.
Yeah.
So the police must play their part, I must play my part, and the farmers must play their part. And of course, if you're buying zabuka that you know has not reached the full life for you to harvest, if you're buying stolen crops, if you know it's stolen, if you are part of the problem. So again, I tell members of the public, be on the lookout. Do not support bandits. Do not support people who steal from farmers.
Minister, in terms of, the last year, how would you say agriculture has improved in Trinidad and Tobago?
I would say that
on the
farmers, I would say 10 out of 10 points. I think they've done absolutely well. In terms of NAMDEFCO, I think they've done well. The board, the management, the workers who are there. In terms of the ministry, we have a long way to go. We could do better. I mean, the lockdown, as I said, 60% of the financial year lost to the restrictions. I think agriculture has leadership. I don't think people have a problem knowing who the minister is and understanding my views. I think we are on the right direction, but we need the continued support of the public. We have the support of the Minister of Finance and the Cabinet. I think we are heading in the right direction, but understand the vulnerability of agriculture globally. Right now, the food prices around the world affected by 8 different factors, and it tells you how vulnerable we are wherever we are in the world. It's affected by drought in Brazil, freeze in Brazil, flooding, wildfires in Canada, for example. Transport across Canada is interrupted by the wildfires. It is affected by the shipping costs. It is affected by availability of shipping. It's affected by COVID and labor. 8 factors. And imagine having to run something that is living and it is so vulnerable. We could be in a good situation.
Can we expect shortages apart from increase in prices? Can we expect shortages of poultry or meat?
I think we've done really well throughout the COVID period in terms of managing availability and the prices. I mean, in Canada, when you say the FAO has said year on year, 33% increase in food prices. You go on the shelf in Canada, for example, you see the 33% difference. You come to Trinidad, you see maybe a 5, a 10. The importers have been very moderate in what they pass on. But every small island state, dependent on the outside world for its staples, will always have a level of vulnerability. We have to manage that. But you see, in the most difficult circumstances, local produce being available, you have to switch your consumption to increase the amount of local produce that is on your plate. And that is what the food box program set out to do. As you know, 70 pounds of produce, it takes people a long way.
How do you determine now? I mean, the pandemic isn't over, but I think we're at a place of relative stability. How do you determine the people who are under the poverty line? Because I think we have a genuine issue with identifying who is really in need as compared to who is just being bawling, oh God, I want a food box. We have a lot of those here too.
I must say that the reason in that May to September period, we did it through the food boxes, through the members of parliament. We just felt that they were best positioned, and people were saying to me, but they would do this and they would do that. Well, I said, if you can't trust your MP, who are you going to trust?
And not only that, they can't accuse you of nepotism when you do it that way.
I think I've interacted with all the MPs, and I think they tried their best. They did a lot of rotation. They didn't split the bags as you did, but I know that people who got it split the bags and all of that. And the program, this particular part of the program, via the MPs will continue until the end of December. In January, working with the Ministry of Social Development, we're going to work with a list generated by that ministry. So from January, when the boxes are delivered, it is delivered to a named person, and it goes to that family. And as you know, in this period, of course, people who weren't normally considered vulnerable, they're not working. Again, vulnerability would depend. We don't want people permanently receiving these boxes. We want people who are in a difficult situation and need that support to get the most basic support. The most basic support is not a food card. The most basic support is something delivered to you that you can cook, that you can consume, and that will at least take you through a most difficult period. So that is where the shift is going to come, and we want to do that from January 2022. And I'm going to tell you that I have also said to the country, apart from the MPs and the NGOs that the minister announced in the budget who worked with us, there were individual families reaching out to me, and we responded to every one of them. I found sometime in September, that there were some messages came to me via Messenger that I had not seen. It went into the other box in Messenger.
Yeah, I know
and
what
I
you
went
mean.
through every
it
message.
It took me a while to realize that there was another box.
I received 85 messages from me, mainly in that period when the boxes were just reintroduced. And I went through every message, and I sent a message to the person apologizing for not responding before and asking them if they had received something. And I'll tell you this, more than half the person said to me, Minister, yes, we got something. And I've received messages from people who have said, I don't want to receive any more, I'm working again. So it's a level of honesty, it's a level of data management by the MPs, by us too, and knowing your community. So there's a level of integrity, because you have to understand that if you can take care of yourself, then you should not be participating in the program. And even in the COVID, I would say this, I've said it before, not because you're well off or you have a good income or you have money coming in means that you don't need a food box. We've had people who, for example, and I have visited, unlike what Senator Nakhid said, I have visited homes, not inside but outside. Messages I have got from families who have said that we all quarantined, and I've gone and placed it on the curbside. And I know I've received messages from people. I've received messages from Highland Park, and I said to myself, but Highland Park, I mean, why you want a food box? The point is that you had people who could afford and had money but could not leave their houses because
actually,
of age
I know a
or some
family
other
now where
factor.
7 of them in a household, and 3 of them are tested positive, and the entire 7 are quarantined right now. So I'm happy you raised that, because I never even thought of that you could have legitimate people who, under normal circumstances, are working, are in a position to afford, but literally, I've seen that you have to make
in that case, Minister, is there room for an arrangement where they can pay for the...
Well, we do. It's something that has been raised with me. Now, one of the things I don't want to do is that I don't want to compete. I've never wanted to compete with the private sector, because there's a level of subsidy in the state sector. I don't want to compete. And people have asked, could you do one of those exact boxes and sell it to us? I don't want to do that. I've asked NAMDEFCO to look at that. If in particular situations we could do it on a contract basis of a particular issues, but it is something I would really like to develop, and the private sector takes it and goes with it.
I know that they have private sector companies that do similar services, so maybe you can partner with them and figure out how to do that. But
what we would do, I mean, our role is very clear. I'm very clear about what our role is. There's around the world in agriculture, there's this issue of middlemen, and the middleman in agriculture in Trinidad must be NAMDEFCO. Trinidad and Tobago must be
Minister,
NAMDEFCO.
is it that apart from the 1.2 billion that was allocated this year, you still have the unspent balances from the 500 million to use as well?
The funding, the way the budget, it rolls over. So that 500 million is available to us, of which we have said we will draw down 300 million, and that is why
separate from the allocation.
It is included in the 1.2. The 1.2 is made up of 709 million for recurrent expenditure, the 300 million for the stimulus program, 100 million which is split between the in the PSIP out of the consolidated fund, and 68 out of the consolidated and 32 out of the IDF. We have the allocations to the state enterprises under the ministry, included ADB, which has an increased allocation of $50 million for this fiscal. And when you add that up, you get to the 1.2 something billion.
All right, Minister, we have to leave it there, but thank you so much for being with us this morning. I'm sorry Senator Nakhid couldn't stay for the entire session, but so be it. All right, ladies, gentlemen, that's how we're going to wrap this session. But stay with us here on the Now Morning Show. The Budget Matters continues after the break.